Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start this now. Starting it right at market open two for the week, which is interesting because we have a giant gap up here, 350 handles. So this is kind of just something I'm gonna be trying to do every Sunday now, where I'm going into the week and just showing you guys how I do my market weekly outlook and the levels that I mark going into every single week that are useful for me every single day going into the week. So I always start out on the weekly time frame just to determine higher time frame order flow, and I'm looking at the previous week high and the previous week low, because what this is going to allow me to do is keep track of where we're trading at within that range, within the last 5 days. So alongside of that, I'm also looking at any PD arrays on these higher time frames to help me determine higher time frame order flow. Also want to say I'm marking out the weekly open right here as well. Um, but yeah, you can see that with this huge move lower on Friday, it took us down into this weekly BISI, and also went right into the midpoint of this premium wick right here, which was right in alignment with that. So that was a really good draw right there, and why we saw a lot of sensitivity right now on this open up right here. Okay, so that was going to be an area that I was looking at going into the week, and obviously we've already had a big move from that. So um, another thing that I'm always doing alongside of starting out on the higher time frames is I'm going into the week looking at the news. So 13th through the 17th, I believe tomorrow is a bank holiday because it's Columbus Day. Yeah, so USD bank holiday. So I wasn't going to trade Monday anyway, even if there was some type of news right here, like say it was 8:30 or 10 a.m. news, red folder on Monday. I'm not trading. And just the fact that it's a bank holiday now makes it even more solidified that I'm not trading because of that huge move that we got on Friday. So now I want to go down to the daily time frame here and just see what arrays align with that, with those weekly levels. I'm not really seeing anything right here. We're kind of just in no man's land after that huge dump, so I just want to kind of sit back and wait and see how we trade within this range, because we now have a huge range that we're in with Friday. So it's like a 1,000 point range, 1,200 point range right here. So I'm gonna assume that it's probably going to be difficult as long as we stay within this candle right here, especially right within the middle. So if you take a fib from the high to the low of Friday, and I want to try and avoid trading on days where we're opening right near this midpoint, because that is just a high area or a high probability area where we could see accumulation on days. And if I do find setups that I find look really high probability on the lower time frames, I'll be going into them with lower risk if we are trading around this area. So yeah, this Friday move went down into this weekly BISI. The midpoint of that wick swept all these daily swing lows right here, and now again just trading in no man's land. So nothing for me to do here on Nasdaq. I can go down to the hourly time frame just to kind of get a check on some things just to be sure. But obviously we have these relatively equal highs at the previous week high, and that is something that I was actually targeting on Friday for a long. I went long pre-market. It's funny, I had one of my best trading days ever going long on a day where we dropped 1,200 points. Um, I went long from this 2 minute BISI right here, pre-market. We swept pre-market lows into a 15-minute BISI. You can go on like a higher time frame chart and see that on your own time. And we had SMT right here, a sweep of internal low, a market structure shift. This is just a classic 2022 model. Um, 2 minute BISI right here in line with an order block, and I thought the damage had already been done prior to New York Open, so I wanted to see 930 distribute as opposed to manipulate, and we had London and Asia relative equal highs right here, so a really obvious target. And whenever I have really obvious targets, which consist of session highs, and it makes it even better when they're relatively equal, that's something where if I see my model and opposing session liquidity has been taken, I'm going in with my max risk and I'm looking to do a full pull towards those. And so I had a really nice like 1 to 2.8 R trade right here and ended up being one of my best days. So didn't quite reach that high, which kind of confused a lot of people. Um, because I'm sure a lot of people got chopped up trying to go long right here, and then I'm sure some people got some slippage right there as well. So, um, yeah, really, really crazy day on Friday. And yeah, now we just get to wait and see what happens next with all the craziness and the tweeting and the things along that nature. So, now we can head over to ES and doing the very same things here. Get rid of this, get rid of these. Just start with a fresh chart. Oh, I forgot to do. Usually, what I do is alongside marking my previous week high levels, I mark previous day high and low. Obviously, we don't need to do that right now because the previous week low is the previous day low and vice versa. So, nothing for me to do on that one there. So ES, we had a similar move. Obviously, because these indices move in tandem with each other. Previous week high, previous week low, and I'm marking my previous or my current weekly open because this is going to help me with my power of three, right? If I'm bullish going into the week and I see Monday and Tuesday do the manipulation below this weekly open, like say I was bullish and we trade below weekly open Monday, Tuesday, and take out some form of significant sell side liquidity or go into like a discount array, and then I begin to see a momentum shift in the latter portion of the week, and we begin to trade back above weekly open, well, now I can assume that the wick was created on the weekly chart, and now I can confidently continue to look for longs towards any buy side or premium raise I had for the rest of the week. So that's why the weekly open and having it marked on your chart is important. This up close candle is probably going to be important to me because I want to see if it's going to act as a premium, right? And I'm sure we'll have some sensitivity at this opening price right here. It may not, if we are going to continue to be bullish, it may not just like hit that and just absolutely tank. But I'm sure if we do trade to this, that we will see some sort of sensitivity there, especially if it happens at a significant time like market open or anything like that. I'm not going to have that marked on my chart. I'm just going to keep it in mind. Um, yeah, we traded into this weekly order block right here. You can see the body respecting that really nice. And nothing really down here that I can look at. These are relatively equal, but again, so far away to the point where it's like I don't need to pay attention to that right now. It's just I'm really looking at the previous week range because it's so large that again, I think any trading within here, again, near the midpoint is going to be pretty difficult. And you can already see that sensitivity we have off the midpoint right there within that dealing range there. But yeah, you can see these are relatively equal. So if we do end up getting confirmation for a move lower in some, some lower time frame, like on the 4 hour or hourly time frames, we start to see order flow turn bearish, then I think previous week low and these relative equal lows are going to make for really good targets. And I do expect some volatility from here on out. Again, relative equal highs right here. So Once we maintain some bullishness, then obvious targets. So we have obvious targets high and low as far as relative equal lows and highs go. So it's just a matter of waiting. Um, Not trading Monday. I don't recommend anyone to trade Monday because it is a bank holiday, and trying to trade after a 1,200 point move on Nasdaq the following day is just, in my opinion, gambling. So it's pretty much going to be it for ES. Now we can get into our currencies right here. So I'm going to take off all of this mess. We're going to start on the weekly time frame here. Well, my previous week high. And you can see that the previous week open, there was no wick, right? So if you take a look in the upper left-hand corner right here, open was at 775 and the high was at 775. So this is what people refer to as like a devil's mark. And to me, that is like a PD array and a draw on liquidity. And since I am bearish on dollar, for the longer term, I do want to start to see some uh, structure shift towards this direction. It may not happen like this week, but again, since I am bearish on dollar um, for the much longer term, like we've recently had bullish price action, but I'm just waiting for it to shift bearish because then it's going to align with like macro economic news and stuff like that, which just makes sense to me. But right now, in last week, euro for foreign currencies have been bearish and dollar has been pretty bullish. But gonna mark these out here. Get rid of this. Weekly open. All right, so this is interesting right here. Is the midpoint of this wick? I marked this one got my attention because it's just the longest wick and the lowest one from all of these, and the most dramatic right here. Lots of manipulation within this candle. It's also an imbalance. In the midpoint and upper quadrant and lower quadrant of these are significant, and so I just anytime I see something like that and it catches my eye, I want and we're trading near it, I want to mark out those quadrant levels. And literally just doing that right now, you can see how literally perfect to the tick we went and touched that. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get follow through below this low on a closure, because then I think this low would be in play. But as long as we hold this midpoint and we start to shift that structure on a lower time frame, um, then I think we could see that those higher prices. Okay, I got all that marked. Um, Again, we're in a significant area right here because within um, that range of the midpoint on that weekly candle, we also have a balanced price range right here on the daily time frame. So one move down, sweeping liquidity right here, and then one move up, balanced. Went down, hit the midpoint of that, hit the midpoint of that weekly wick, and you see on Friday we saw some rejection from there. Then we have a little suspension block right here. So I want to have that marked. Because this will be significant. If we can close above this, then that's going to set the stage for a move higher. If we don't close above it and instead, like Monday or Tuesday, we get a little sweep above this previous day high, come on, then we can see that continued move lower towards this low. So just it's always a good idea to create scenarios in your head going into the week, both bullish and bearish, unless one of them is extremely obvious and you can confidently lean one way or the other. Right now, I can't really do that um, based on what I'm seeing, especially for indices. But that's okay because any day or every day that I go into, I'm really just working with session liquidity. And as the week goes on, I get a much better idea of what higher time frame liquidity that we're drawing towards. So it's always tougher at the beginning of the week. You're kind of just, again, guessing with probabilities based on what happened last week. And then as the week goes on and you get more data, it becomes much, much easier to have a firm bias as opposed to in the beginning of the week. Looking at this hourly chart right here, it does look like, I mean, previous day high is relative equal highs on the hourly chart right here. And we have, this looks like a market structure shift after a sweep of this low right here. Order block, market structure shift, relative equal highs. I would say that this 1 hour fair value gap should send us up. Um, yeah, I'll be interested to see on how we react here because I would want to see this send us to sweep out these relative equal highs into this suspension block. So that's something that I would be looking for right there to start the week off. If dollar and the pound agree with that as well. Same thing, previous week high, previous week low, and weekly open are my levels. Okay. So nothing really right there. Are these, was this swept? It was barely swept, but that's really not enough. It's right on the upper quadrant of this wick. So I would still count these as relative equal lows. If we do get a continuation lower, then on pound, this is going to be a really obvious target. So we've had that continuation from this daily fair value gap and order block right here. So this is a suspension block that we held, right? We actually closed below. So it was used right here to move higher, use it again, move higher, and now with the support of this, we were able to close below it. And then Friday went up to the top of it, immediate rebalance right here, and then closed back within this. So pound looks more bearish to me, while euro looks like it could go either way since we have this balanced price range right here. So that kind of conflicts. If I was to be a short seller, I would feel much more confident shorting pound. And if I was looking to buy, I would be much more confident looking to buy euro. All right. And then dollar looks very similar to euro, where we have that balanced price range right here. And then we had that reaction from it after sweeping a weekly high right here. And we've got this wick, went to that midpoint, and then rejected away. I think I am going to leave that marked, this midpoint. Was that 471? Okay. Previous week high, previous week low. And on dollar, we had the same thing as euro, where we open up and just go one direction. So to me, that's more so of a manipulation move. Okay, that's good. Need weekly open as well. So previous day high and previous week high are kind of relatively equal, except they are somewhat guarded by this balanced price range. So it really all just depends on if we get a close above here or if we continue holding it. And that is what Monday and Tuesday should be able to tell for us. Below this previous day low, we have this volume imbalance right here, so that would be a good draw on liquidity once we do show signs of going lower. But yeah, ever since we swept July low, we've had bullish price action on dollar. But again, to me, it just doesn't make sense based on what we're seeing in the news. Um, but technically, it definitely was bullish, right? Sweep of a month low, daily inversion fair value gap, balanced price range right here. Hit it, market structure shift right here, order block, fair value gap, hit it, and then that continuation higher. So dollar has been bullish, but I'm really waiting for it to be bearish because once it does turn bearish, I really think the move lower is going to be pretty violent. Um, and then similar to euro, right? Would want to see this hold and would want to see this hold, but Monday's just going to be what tells us or gives us better clues on going into the rest of the week because as of right now, I think it would be kind of guessing. Like we're at that point of interest, but you need that confirmation. And then bonds have just kind of been a mess. I don't trade bonds, but I use the bonds to kind of give me that um, more that confirmation on currencies because bonds are going to move opposite of dollar. So if bonds are going up, dollar should be going down. But what's been happening, you should not see a big bullish candle on dollar and a big bullish candle on bonds. That doesn't make sense technically. That shows that these markets are not aligned and it's kind of like a risk off scenario where if you're trading currencies, I think it's a little bit lower probability until we start to see those things oppose each other. And yeah, it's the same with these as well. So they've been slowly grinding higher. And then gold's just been out of this world as well. I want to get my levels on there as usual. Same thing we did with all the other ones. Previous week high, previous week low. Gold's just been opening up every week and immediately taking out the previous week high. So it's hard to trade. You have to be ready for those pullbacks and then just, you know, keep riding with it. It's really been a crazy move. Previous day low, previous day high. See, previous day high has already been taken out. We've had market open and gold is already up 40 bucks. Just been giant, giant moves. Yeah. I had this hourly fair value get marked out because I was actually going to swing gold on my top step accounts. And when I say swing, I kind of just, it's not really a swing because you can't hold overnight with those, but I was looking for just to hold for the daily range from this level. Um, but we really didn't get the follow through. But these previous week highs that are relatively equal, or singular previous week high, I should say, these daily highs are relatively equal. That's just the obvious draw, right? And it looks like we're already going for it right at the open. But yeah, it's no surprise that this weekly open is giant. From this low up until this high, it's already been like a 500-point move. So it's one thing that I would do is mark out the quadrant levels of these and keep them on like a notepad or a piece of paper. I don't like to keep these things on my chart because it just gets messy, but that midpoint will be important. As long as, this stays open, it'll be important. Well, it'll be open when it closes as well. Um, but if we do go into the day, any given day, and this is open, then I'm going to be looking for like the upper quadrant, the midpoint, in the lower quadrant, and eventually for it to get filled. So yeah, that's those are some of the things that I'll be looking for going into next week or this upcoming week. Um, I would not recommend trading. Again, it is a bank holiday for USD um, tomorrow on Monday, and I said before, even if it wasn't a bank holiday and we had red folder news, I would not be trading Monday anyway. Normally, I do trade Mondays, even if it isn't, or I I'm ready to take a trade on Monday, even if it is no red folder news, because if my model appears, I'm going to take it. I know it's lower probability, so I'll adjust my risk based off of that. Um, but the fact that Friday had this move lower, like I'm just expecting accumulation or crazy volatility that I don't want to be a part of because it's uncertain, and you can see how just off of out of nowhere these types of moves can happen. So when stuff like that is going on, I'm not trying to go in there and risk. I'm more so sitting back, being patient, waiting for the higher probability market conditions to present themselves because last week I finally got myself out of drawdown that I was experiencing for like the last month because of tough market conditions and just those market conditions making me a little bit off my game, um, which can kind of lead me to take unnecessary trades or losses that I shouldn't be taking. And then, I got to dig myself out of that, which is normal. I just made a video on that. It's a part of every process, part of every person's, I think it happens to everyone at some point in the year, or if not multiple times. Um, but yeah, once I mean, I finally dug myself out of that, which was something that it felt great, but I don't want to jump back in there and try and just make all this money when, I think volatility and moves like this is just inviting the uh, the newbies to make some really dumb decisions. And I'm gonna wait for the damage to be done, and then I'll go in there and do what I do. So That is going to be the outlook for this upcoming week. This is what I do every single week in the levels that I mark out every single week. Um, Keep these levels on your chart, like previous week high, previous week low, and weekly opens, because you'll see these levels, a lot of trades form around them, even after they're already taken. Okay, I have many trades where when they're forming right around the previous week high, even if we've taken it 3 days ago, and my 1 minute fair value gap is lining up with that previous week high, it'll use that as perfect support or resistance. And you'll see those levels act like you would with any other PD array. Same thing with previous day highs and lows. I keep the last three marked on my chart. Not if they've already been taken. I'm really only interested in the ones that are uh, untouched. But yeah, other than that, um, that's pretty much it. So hopefully this helps, and see you in the next one.